Welcome to The Business on Radio Verulam, the voice of your local business community.
Hello, it's Sunday, it's 8 p.m. I'm Roma Bhowmick and you're listening to The Business, the show that's essential listening to the West Herts business community. Well, as ever, we have a packed show, packed with great guests and lots of business news, views and opinions. And we really do want to hear what you think. So why not tweet us at RVTheBusiness, email us on thebusiness@radioverulam.com or call the studio on 01727 839 926, especially if you'd like to share your business story. Well, this week the girls have taken charge, yay, while Trevor's taking a little break. We do miss you really, Trevor. So I'm here with Vicky Scott. Hi Vicky, how are you?
I'm well.
Good. So who do you have lined up for your business interview tonight?
Well, a lot of people have come across my guest, Carl French. He's a consummate networker. I met him a good few years ago when he was involved in the setting up of a network based around LinkedIn, when it was all very new and no one knew what to do with it. Obviously, we're all a bit more experienced now. And Carl's still involved in the franchise business, but tonight we're going to be talking about the relatively new phenomenon of ebooks. So, are you a business guru who should be sharing your business insight through ebooks, or do you just have a story to tell? Whatever, stick around and find out all about the why, what and how of e-publishing from Carl French.
Ooh, sounds like that could be very interesting. And for our panel discussion, we'll also be joined by Antonio Picciuto, owner of fabulous Buongiorno, Italia, specialist Italian delicatessen here in St Albans. Buongiorno, Italia are proud of over 35 years' experience in sourcing Italian food. Customers are always assured that their selection is from the best authentic suppliers, we're told. Antonio describes himself and his team as passionate about the food we sell and do our best to always find new and exciting products to suit all tastes. Well, what with Carl and Antonio, we should have some lively chat, and as usual we'll be talking about stories and issues which might be of interest or affecting you. Finally, of course, we'll take a look at our diary planner and a roundup of the week ahead. Lots to get through then, Vicky.
Certainly is, as always.
As
it always goes so quickly.
Absolutely. But first, what's in the business news? So, Vicky, what's grabbed your attention in this week's news?
Well, there are two things really that grabbed my attention, and unusually for me, they're both a bit of a grumble. And the first is the state of the roads. How many businesses out there have to rely on road transport? I just don't know how you're coping. The roads at the moment are a bit like the Greek islands of latter year when, they weren't really roads at all. So when I came across this headline that the county's road contractor was back on track with repairs, I couldn't really resist having a bit further read. And evidently, spring officially starts in 2 weeks' time, say
Really?
Ringway. It doesn't look like it at the moment. It was snowing like heck this afternoon. So Ringway are the company that recently won the Herts contract for looking after our roads. And they say that they hope to have cleared most of the pothole backlog in 2 weeks' time. They say that they've admitted that the state of the roads has been substandard, but they're now coping. They say the backlog was 600 holes, down from 900 in mid-February. I just can't believe those small numbers, having driven here this evening.
No.
Anyway, Ringway started their 7-year contract in October. They took over from Lafarge. And it was the same month that the Integrated Transport Control Centre opened at County Hall. And they've invested $400,000 into the centre, which supposedly brings together a whole load of teams and technologies. Needless to say, the technology didn't quite work, so the reporting of faults has reverted to a paper system. Surprise, surprise. But the thing that really made me laugh, and actually not in the right way of laughing, was when the management team of Ringway were quoted as saying, "I don't think anybody could have predicted the level of wet weather this autumn." Now, we know it's been wet, but for crikey's sake, we are living in England. So, for all those people that rely on the roads for their businesses, I'm really sorry, but Ringway say they're back on track.
It's very hard to believe, isn't it? I have to say, I don't know what they're filling their potholes with, but the potholes appear again in about 2 weeks after they've filled them up.
I know,
So,
evidently,
yeah,
I was
crazy.
talking to some of the guys that are filling the roads, actually, on my run this morning. And they did say,
to complain.
Yeah, well, they did say that if the hole, to quote them, is bigger than a fag packet, deeper than a fag packet, then take a picture of it. If it's damaged your car in any way, then the county will actually foot the bill.
So,
So take a fag packet. Well, take a fag packet or something similar out. Take a picture of the hole if it's damaged your car, and claim back from the council.
But you shouldn't have to do that. It's nonsense, really, isn't it?
Certainly shouldn't.
Anyway, and what was your second story?
Well, the other story was based on last week being National Apprenticeship Week, and I know that we've sort of covered it before a little bit, but last week was the week, and it coincided with the Richard Review, which is a report that actually, interestingly, I think includes about 6 really good key measures that put not only the employer but the apprentice in a much clearer position to really benefit from what I think is probably a very good relationship. And the Prime Minister has said he wants work-based training to sit, and I quote, at the heart of his mission to rebuild the economy. And forecasts suggesting that apprenticeships could add up to about 3.4 billion a year in economic gain. Anybody wants to read a copy of the report, I've got a copy on my desk, and it's only 47 pages long. But it also, interestingly, coincided with the rise and fall of the winning apprentice Stella English, who's now suing Lord Sugar for constructive dismissal. Apparently, her case is based on the promised £100,000 a year executive role in one of Lord Sugar's companies being a sham, and that she claims in reality she was an overpaid lackey. Well, I have to say that anyone looking for an apprentice in their PR department should consider Stella, because her timing's been absolutely perfect. However, she might want a board position on that appointment because of lack of experience, regardless of a lack of experience. So I must say to any young people, this sort of thing does drive me nuts, and I do hear it quite often. It's really, really important to get a job, to enjoy the money, however big or little it is, but it's about learning and growing and not expecting to run before you can walk. However much she was expected to have an executive position, there's no way that, at 22 or whatever she is, she could expect to really be given the authority or the responsibility of a real executive. So get real, please.
Absolutely. It's been an interesting case, hasn't it? And isn't it on hold at the moment?
To be honest,
adjourned
I got so irritated by the very idea that she should think it would be anything other than an overpaid lackey that I couldn't really be bothered to continue with the article.
No, absolutely right. And the whole thing about apprenticeships is very interesting. I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity for small businesses particularly to get people on board and train some really good, keen young people. But you're right, I think expectations need to be kind of reined in a little bit.
Well, that's right. But equally, I do believe that employers have got a responsibility to really train and to build that person's experience and to put them in a position where they can contribute to the business, and not to just treat them like lackeys. Having said that, you don't expect to be an executive within 5 minutes of walking through doors. It's just totally unrealistic.
Exactly.
We've all had to make tea. We've all had to, run to the shops and get lunch. And you have to expect to do those sorts of things when you're first in a business.
Tied to the photocopier, absolutely.
Tied to the photocopier. I hope in the right way.
Oh, that's another show. Okay, so, I've got just one little story. It looks as though, and it's another one of those little jolly ones, it looks as if champagne's losing its fizz for the British consumer, who would rather be, according to a latest survey, curled up with a book downloaded onto their e-readers. According to government statisticians, the Office for National Statistics, which bases its monthly calculation of inflation on 700 goods and services priced in 150 areas of the country, said that sales of books for digital devices represented a significant and growing market. Basically, looking at the figures, they say Britons are perhaps not so keen to flirt in this recession with champagne, but much more interested in white rum. White rum sales have gone up. Yes. White rum, blueberries. That's the other one. Blueberries, continental sliced meats, which is interesting given our guest who's coming in onto the panel. Yes. Packaged stir-fried vegetables, and as I say, the e-reader. Another sign of the times is packs of disposable contact lenses are also entering the basket and replacing pairs of soft contact lenses. So I must admit, I don't like to say I'm quite partial to an odd glass of bubbly, although I'm most likely these days to drink cava than champagne, but, sign of the times. But yeah, I don't know. What are our listeners interested in? I don't know what you think about the stories we've had so far, but if you'd like to share your thoughts on apprenticeships, on potholes, or on champagne even, you might like to email us on thebusiness@radioverulam.com, tweet us at RVTheBusiness, or call the studio on 01727 839 926.
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
Dagnall Street Baptist Church has a welcoming, friendly atmosphere and can be found in the city centre. Regular Sunday services are held at 10:30am and 6:30pm. There are also weekday social meetings, special events and concerts. Our busy, relaxed coffee shop deserves a visit and is open 10 till 2 Monday to Saturday. Our website, www.dsbc.org.uk, has details of our regular programme and future events, plus the opportunity to download our monthly magazine. We also have a Facebook page where you can catch up on our latest news and chat.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners. You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
Oh, she's got such a nice voice. Yes, this is The Business, and as you know by now, the show's all about you, the business community. We want to know what you think and what you'd like to share, and we've already had so many of you contact us with your thoughts, which is fantastic. We like to get those top tips from the front line, and this week we have Norman Whitwood, who's a life and business coach based in Wheathampstead. Vicky asked him for a light bulb moment, and this is what he said.
Yes, there was. As I said, I was a Samaritan for about a year. That was too passive. I looked at counselling. That was too long-winded. Great respect to counsellors and to Samaritans, of course. But it wasn't for me. And it was when I first started training as a coach. Because when you train as a coach, like most of these personal support professions, you have to really work on yourself. And it wasn't very long before I realised, in fact about 10 minutes into the course, that I realised this is exactly what I was looking for. So that was my major light bulb moment. I had made the right choice and there was no going back.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's also really good to hear that people, at any stage in their lives or careers can really make changes that can fundamentally sort of affect the future. So, welcome back to the part of the show where I talk business with business owners. I'm asking them to share their experiences. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm really pleased to welcome Carl French, director of the Endless Bookcase. Welcome, Carl. Great name for a company.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So, as I understand it, it really does what it says on the tin. So, let's be very, very clear. What exactly is an e-book?
Well, that's a nice, easy one to start with. It's an electronic book as opposed to a book on paper. So something you look at on your computer, your smartphone, or one of these specialist e-book reader devices.
Kindle sort of those
Kindles,
types of
Kobos,
things.
yeah.
Kobos? Oh, that's a new one on me.
Oh, well, they're quite big.
well,
Smiths sell them and lots of other places too.
Oh, so it's just me that's behind the thing. Is an e-book sort of shorter or more condensed than a normal book, or is it just the same, it's just a different way of reading in it?
They're all shapes and sizes, all lengths as ordinary books, but it's more economic to do small books and booklets as e-books, so there's more opportunity in a sense for the smaller work than there is on paper.
Okay, so what does your company actually do within the e-book market?
I don't really like the term one-stop shop, but that's really what we are. We'll take an author who's writing a book or written a book and help them, do the whole production thing for them, publish it and put it out through as many channels as we can and promote it.
So do they come to you with an idea? Or?
Sometimes. Often they've already written quite a bit, or they've played with the idea, and they often want help in terms of focusing on exactly what they should do. But most of the people who come to me are well into it to some degree, often a bit stuck, but
In terms of content or how to go about putting it
how to go about it, I think. Most of the people who are stuck are not because they can't get on with it. They've got a bit bogged down in what's the right thing to do. And even if they're good writers, writing a book is a bigger undertaking than something small, and they just don't have the technique sometimes.
And is it easy to get it online? What's the next process? So you've written your book, it looks great, it's all in chapters and so on and so forth. How do you then actually get it online? Right,
well, somebody will give us a book in a Word file, Microsoft Word, something like that, and we'll do the technical job of converting it into a format that can be loaded up onto the internet.
Oh, right.
And it's fairly straightforward. I mean, people can do it themselves. I wouldn't recommend it. They tend to make a bit of a pig's ear of it. And you see some very strange books on Amazon sometimes. But it's a relatively straightforward job.
So what can actually go wrong in that process? When you say pig's ear, what does a pig's ear of an e-book look like?
Well, the really horrible ones are like scanned paper, and you can't really access the fonts, the type properly.
So you can't really read it.
No, exactly, yeah. And you get all sorts of funny fonts and pictures that are off page and you name it. It's quite comic at times, unintentionally, of course. Yeah.
Do you do any editing for them? Do you help them?
Yeah. We have it's very sort of a democratic kind of thing working with our authors. It's a collaborative thing, cooperative. We do insist that people have books properly reviewed and edited before we publish them, and we do a final check ourselves. And there's lots of people available to edit and check and review. I mean, there's umpteen different ways of doing that. Proofreading is one aspect of that, of course. So they need to be thoroughly checked out. But checking them out in terms of whether it's suitable for the reader and is it going to work, and who the audience is more important in a sense than some of the other things.
Yes,
and that leads to all sorts of changes.
Right. Oh, so you really help them as well with the audience, with whether it's appropriate for the audience, whether it's going to actually... do they sell these books?
Well, they absolutely do. I mean, it's like all markets. Some sell well and some not so well. Yeah, I used to be a commissioning editor for a conventional publisher years ago, commissioning business books and technical books. And we were very commercially driven, so we looked very carefully at the market. And I still use a lot of those ideas when talking to a prospective author. People get hung up on titles that aren't really suitable. And in fact, they get far too hung up on titles generally. And, it's a case of what you're really trying to say and how do you get that across. So there's a lot of help on that.
So a lot of people would say, that it's vanity publishing. How much value really is there to a business of having your own book?
Well, there can be enormous value, and I think people sometimes don't recognise that if you go about it the right way, because one of the main things people say they want in a business, they want to enhance their reputation. And how do you do that? Well, there is something almost magical about having written a book on the subject which you purport to be the specialist in, or that's something that really helps people with a common problem in their industry. So writing even a booklet, a sort of how-to booklet that gives away lots of the basics to prospective and audience can be very valuable indeed. It can be given away. But the internet's got billions of people on it, and if it's got the right title and the right information and people search on that, you can sell lots, and it's amazing what does sell. I met a lady a few months ago who'd written a gardening book about some specialist bits of gardening. She sold 30,000 copies in 6 months. She lives in Hertfordshire somewhere. I can't remember her name, I'm afraid. But it's other people sell, 5 or 10 books in the space of a year. So it's whether the audience or
people tend to read them online as opposed to print them off.
Yeah, very few people print them off. What I've noticed, though, in the last year, there's more and more people actually just using their smartphones, Androids or iPhones or tablets to read books, rather than actually buy specialist Kindles and things.
Right.
And people do, of course, read on laptops and PCs and, and obviously they buy these devices.
And is it an expensive thing to do? I mean, obviously publishing a book, hard copy, is an extraordinarily expensive investment.
Yeah.
So e-book, is it a lot cheaper? I'm assuming it's a lot cheaper, but what sort of prices are we talking about?
We charge authors £60 plus VAT, which is really just a kind of commitment fee. The costs are much less because what you've done is you've eliminated the full production cost for a printed copy and, of course, printing them all off, and you don't have to store them in a warehouse, and you don't have to ship them by post. So all those costs are saved. I know some of them get handed on to the public. Vanity publishing is typically about people having in the past who've produce, 5,000 copies of a book, and after they've sold them to all their aunties, they're left with a big box full. We aren't in vanity publishing. On the internet, the reader decides how many what they want to buy. Mm-hmm. It is viral, and most people, they're producing books that they really are trying to get to their audience, and it's so much easier on the internet than it is through conventional bookshops.
So how do you market? Who's going to buy my book when I write it about, marketing to SMEs in a recession?
Yeah. Well,
who's going to buy it? Because it's written by me and nobody knows me. Well, apart from...
Well, I'm sure lots of people know you.
Company.
Yeah. but that would maybe be true of other people. Now, what actually happens is, I think there's sort of, you making yourself visible is one thing, and then targeting your audience. You have to do those two things. But if you've got a title, like you just mentioned, which is sort of how to do something. How to is a great title. What people do on the internet is, they go onto Google and they've got a problem and they search on how to whatever, and they play around searching on that because they don't find what they want to start with. And if they land on your book title and it's, less than £5, it's a no-brainer. They just sort of click on the button and they've bought it. So that's what happens.
But so how do you do the pay bit? You do a PayPal sort of setup?
Yeah, well, on our website, people can go through PayPal or anything else. We're publishing on to Amazon. All our books go on as many platforms as we can get. So they're on Amazon, and if you've got an Amazon Kindle, then you download it onto your Kindle. If you've got some other device,
do Amazon sort of take 60% or whatever it is on, like they do on the paper versions?
Amazon have changed their rules from time to time, but currently they really got two markets. For small publishers, small authors, it's 70% goes to the publisher author if it's under $10, right? Which is a lot of books actually. Yeah. And then it goes down to 35% above that. So there's sort of a gap. Nobody wants to have a book priced between sort of $10 and $20. So the big publishers tend to be on that lower percentage, but selling more expensive books. And I think a lot of ebooks are vastly overpriced. From what we talked about earlier. Yeah. And then the other end, it's from 99 cents. And there's been some massive best-selling fiction in particular at that sort of level. I mean, the ebook market works very differently. Yeah. So millions of books sold at basically $1 each, but the author ends up quite rich.
Well, that sounds very nice, and it's the sort of money that you can earn whilst you're asleep.
Absolutely,
it?
Yes. Or drinking a martini, or whatever you fancy.
That sounds like champagne.
Champagne. While it was still popular, there's got to be gin or...
How did you get into e-commerce? E-books.
How did I get into it? Well, I was in a sense going back into publishing because I've been involved before, because I thought e-books was a game changer. Yeah. There used to be a saying that the way to make a small fortune in publishing was to start with a large one. and I think that's largely true for a lot of publishers. E-books, even a small publisher can get to a big audience, very big audience, because you're on the internet. And the reason it's the Endless Bookcase is you can have as many books as you like. There's no physical limit to what you stock, and there's no price associated with having a large stock, which there is in a conventional bookshop.
Yeah, of course. And just none of us have got big bookshelves or libraries or anything like that anymore.
No, and then you see people on holiday with their book readers who've come on the plane with 20 or 30 books in something that's the weight of less than one book, and you see why people like to do that. Even people who write paper books still will use readers when they're on the move, basically.
So if you've got a sort of tip for somebody who thinks they've got a book in them, whether it's a business book or do you do fiction books as well as non-fiction?
We do, yeah, and we've got some local authors as well. There's Bob Hambleton in Bricket Wood, who's got a wonderful novel called Sabrina. But yes, we do business books, and for somebody thinking of a business book, I'd say think of your audience, who you really want to get to. What's the message, that would be useful to them, that they would be interested in having as a freebie or buying, preferably. And then get some specialist help. Come to me. We've got lots of free help on our website, but get some specialist help, because people who try and do it all themselves really do make it hard for themselves. So those three things, really.
So, Carl, what's the website address?
Oh, thank you. It's theendlessbookcase, all one word, .com. theendlessbookcase.com.
Theendlessbookcase.com.
And there's lots of free help for prospective authors on there if they like to register with
And,
us.
and if people sort of still like to use the old style, they can actually possibly give you a call.
They can indeed. Yeah.
Good, good.
There's all the contact details on there. Yes, I like talking to people.
That's brilliant.
Phone or whatever.
Really,
That's
really
great.
interesting.
Thank you.
I hope you're going to join us for the panel discussion with Roma a bit later.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, thank you.
In the meantime, I'm starting to get tempted that I ought to be putting my my thoughts into writing.
You really should. Yes.
Thanks ever so much, Carl.
Let's talk later.
For
Thank
the
you.
Endless Bookshop.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
Through a national network of more than 15,000 trained parent volunteers, Home Start supports thousands of parents who are struggling to cope. Families may need support for many reasons, including postnatal illness, disability, bereavement, and the illness of a parent or child, or social isolation. Parents support other parents to help build a family's confidence and ability to cope. You can find them at 31 Spencer Street, St Albans, and their telephone number is 01727 833 810.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners. You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
Oh, it's getting cosy in here. Well, we've got our panel discussion now, and every week, again, as you know, listeners, we debate the big business issues. This week, we welcome back Carl French, put my teeth in, and introduce Antonio Picciuto.
Perfectly.
Is that right?
That's
Is that
perfect, yeah.
perfect? Oh,
Lovely.
thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
Everyone gets my surname wrong.
It's
so,
all right, it was totally wrong. I was being polite.
Oh, right. So what is it then?
No,
You
it's
say
Picciuto.
perfect.
Picciuto. Yeah.
Thank you. From Buongiorno, Italia.
That's right.
Okay, so Antonio, maybe you could tell us briefly a little bit about yourself and your business.
Well, I mean, I was born and bred in St Albans, and my father started a business in 1978, an Italian deli, just a couple of doors down where we are now. And we're a second generation Italian delicatessen, and recently we just expanded, and the business is just going strength to strength, you know, serving coffees, ciabattas and great Italian food.
Yeah, absolutely. Very colourful. Every time I drive past it, you can't but notice it.
Oh,
Always so pretty, as
Thank
well
you
as the
very
food tastes good, which is good.
So that's what we aim for. Thank you.
Great, excellent. Well, on to our first story for the panel. And actually, as usual, what I try to do is look at what research is going on. And I came across this particular piece of research around web content with the title, Good Web Content Can Increase Online Sales. So having good web content on your website is an important factor in gaining credibility, trust, and ultimately sales from the people who visit your site, which is essentially what it's all about. The use of content has become one of the fastest growing marketing strategies, according to US content organisation company Curata. But this isn't just a US phenomenon. British businesses are also discovering the value of content-driven marketing. If done well, it's argued that good content can build your credibility and it's good PR. It can show expertise to a potential customer that reinforces confidence and trust, and if the advice is really useful, it might even lead to a sense of gratitude. It's about adding value from the first encounter with your website that can later lead to sales and recommendations. And research has also suggested that it's important to make it social. With all your content, make sure it's easy for others to share via social media platforms such as Twitter, and as you know, we all use Twitter here, LinkedIn and Facebook. When your content is shared by others, you're benefiting from one of the most powerful of all marketing tools, that of personal recommendation and endorsement. Increasingly, customers are turning to their peers for advice to inform their purchasing decisions. So good old recommendations. Encouraging visitors to sign up to a free newsletter is also another way of staying in touch with potential customers. Now, Antonio, having done a bit of research myself on your business, I see you've got a very interesting and vibrant website, and you also use social media to help your business.
That's
so
right.
maybe you'd like to tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, when our business expanded, we upgraded our website and we turned it into a much more colourful, vibrant website. And we also started doing Facebook about 18 months ago, and that has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, I really, really enjoyed doing our Facebook, trying to keep it informative, but also light-hearted and laughing at ourselves and, even promoting what our customers do. One of our customers' daughters was taking part in the film festival, and we tried to promote that. And it's just a way of being in touch with your clients in a how can I say, a non-business environment atmosphere. You're just like having an informative chat with them, and it's really a good way to keep in contact with them. And also it's instant, so if a new product comes in, you can tell them straight away. And most of the time some people will come in and say, I saw that on Facebook, have you got it? That's great. Can we, have you got it in stock? And it really does drive business in. And the website, nobody says, I saw your number in Yellow Pages anymore. They actually do say, I saw it on Google, I saw your website, you do this product, and they will ring you up and they'll be there within days to pick up that product. It really does help having a great website.
So quite a community feel to the way that you engage with your customers then?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. We see ourselves as a community a community store, but we have people from all over the county who have lived in St Albans or moved away, and they like to keep in touch. And even though they don't come into the shop, they're aware of you. And I think that's really, really important, them being aware of your business, and they will recommend you to other people who are looking for things and stuff like that. So
in tune very much with the research then.
Oh yeah, definitely. Very, very much so. Yeah. Really, definitely.
And Carl, what about you? You've got a very interesting website, very different of course to something like Buongiorno Italia, which is essentially a a retail focused organisation. What's your experience? What's your thoughts?
Well, again, I'd endorse the main message, but I think when you have content that people can download, that they can use, they can take offline and they get some value from, not only is that helping you to get traffic, but you're starting to build a relationship with your prospective customer. And one of the things I've noticed is that I'll have a conversation with somebody, we've been to your website, we've downloaded this document, we've done this, that and the other, and you've got through all those preliminaries, so the whole process of moving forward is gone several steps before you've even met them or knew they were there. I also think video is still underutilised because I have some clients who've got video on the websites like tutorials and things, and videos, using the jargon, very sticky. You start watching a video and you're there 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes later, whereas people are off a piece of text in 30 seconds or something. So that kind of content's really, really good, and audio for that matter. So all that sort of content, I think, really does make a huge difference. And I very much go along with what Tony said. You're building relationships with people and the community side of things, but some of it's not visible. I put a small post on LinkedIn about a year ago when I was going to speak at a conference. And I've got quite a few connections, but it went out, and as far as I knew, that was the end of it. But the person running the website for the conference said, we've just had a whole pile of hits off LinkedIn, and yet nobody told me they'd gone there or anything. But obviously something had happened. And I think that's something it's easy to forget, that you don't though you can do analytics and all that nonsense, you don't always know what's really going on and what's happened or what's happening to what you've put on there. If it's something people like, interested in, it's going to work.
So in both cases you see value to clever content and also, more importantly, valuable content.
Yes.
But can you genuinely translate it into, everyone talks about the importance of return on investment. Can you say, hand on heart, that you're able to identify X amount of revenue additional to what you were getting as a result of work or information you've put onto your website or social media, tweets or LinkedIn messages?
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely. definitely. I mean, maybe not in revenue, but definitely in number of customers that come in the shop, or people actually come in and say that I'm a Facebook follower. I've never been into your shop. I've always wanted to come in. It's fantastic. And websites. I think any business, if you're a cleaning company, a restaurant, or a retail, any business, you should have a website where people can see what you are doing and what you're offering.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I posted details of a seminar I was planning to run in London through LinkedIn, and I filled it with people who saw that one posting. Didn't have to do any other promotions at all.
Wow. Okay, so powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Very.
I've got to dip in here because I'm still in the studio. It's Vicky here. I'm really, really pleased because actually last year was the first year that I got 2 new pieces of business straight out of LinkedIn from people that I'd never ever met or spoken to before, just because of the work that I'd done in terms of just keeping my profile going, keeping my Twitter account going, and getting involved in groups and discussions. So it turned very, very easily to measure into pounds, shillings and pence. Gosh, I keep saying that. It makes me sound so bloody old. I'm sorry, I saw it.
Don't mind being pounds. It's paid in old money.
But it's interesting, isn't it? I think in such a short period of time, even if perhaps we were to look about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, people would talk about clever content, developing a website, blah, blah, blah. But this whole concept of linking everything together and actually driving more of I guess what you'd call a holistic approach to social media, engaging with your customers, really has changed. And this concept of the community again, I think it's a big one, isn't it? People feel like they belong, that they're part of the story.
I absolutely love it. I love it when you can have a joke and a laugh with the customers online, like through Facebook, and you have to be able to laugh at yourself or laugh at being Italian. Every Friday we used to put a post on just how fun it was to be Italian, how we used to grow up and how we used to get slapped by our aunties, and we were the only race that that allowed that, and that kind of thing. And it, the most popular posts have been the ones that had least to do with the food that we sell, and just about being light-hearted and joking, and I really, really enjoy it. It takes 2 or 3 minutes each night to put a post on, and it always brings back some kind of response.
Yeah. I think that sense of belonging is important, isn't it? And Carl, you talked in your interview with Vicky about also sharing for free some advice and guidance, that it's not just all about grabbing people for consultancy, as it were, or engaging them in commercial engagement with you. I mean, I don't know if you want to say more about that and your focus on...
Well, I was happy to say more, but I think a key point is that people have got thoroughly sick of being shouted at or just be blasted sales messages. I think that's one thing that has steadily changed, and unless you actually have something useful for people, they switch off very fast. So yes, we do have a whole load of useful downloads, and we're really trying to make them have real value, and I think the people who are getting more and more business in, you have to have free stuff, and then what I call nearly free. Nearly free is when you can have it provided you tell me who you are, so I can stay in contact with you. We do quite a bit of that. And then, of course, if you've got something lightweight like a booklet that people can buy, that's another step towards maybe buying something bigger, all of which works really well. So, but all of that's about building a useful relationship, isn't it? Not just blasting information at people. That's what really turns everybody off. And I think that's true in general with all these media. It's got to be a two-way thing, hasn't it?
And as we've said, it's about building trust. It's about getting to a point where people feel they've got that engagement with you, and that's what makes them take the next step, because they trust you enough, they believe in you enough to be keen to work with you further, which is great stuff. So it's great news, and you're both living examples of it working effectively, which is fantastic. So on to our second story. And our second story is about the whole concept of mentoring. Again, as a result of a piece of current research, which looked at mentoring and how it can help small businesses grow. Essentially, what it looked at was how small businesses were more likely to grow faster where they access the right kind of external support. And when asked about the subject of mentors, they highlighted a number of key factors for success and reasons for using mentors. So businesses were quoted as giving examples of, we used a mentor because we felt something was missing. So having a mentor means that we have access to questions that we were not asking ourselves, and also big obvious arrows for the direction we should be thinking of taking. Other points that were made by small business owners: it's good to see and get a second opinion. It's quite challenging for SMEs to sometimes not be able to see the wood from the trees, and realise how important it is to be reflective and take time out. And again, we can do this with an external mentor who can help provide structure and outline. They are useful in terms of giving advice. If they've been there and done it, they can help you signpost some of the potential pitfalls. And a mentor can actually also help with challenging you. They're often able to see and signpost things that you, again, might not have realised could be beneficial to your business. So, Carl, I know that in your role in business, you've acted as, I think, both coach and mentor in different situations with small businesses. Again, tell me what your experiences are in helping businesses grow or accelerate their growth through that coaching and mentoring.
Well, I think the first thing is that I have been on the receiving end of some very good mentoring in the past, earlier in my career, including in the publishing field, but then getting a business going. So I think if you've been on the receiving end, you know what really helps. And I think the whole point is that if you've had some experience yourself and you've got all the scars to prove it, then other people who are trying to follow a similar path to yourself are really interested in hearing about that. And it isn't a case of telling people what to do, but perhaps alerting them to things that will avoid the traps and pitfalls and maybe give them ideas they hadn't thought of. And if I'm mentoring someone, I see that more as sharing something I've had the misfortune or fortune to have experienced previously. And I think people do switch between coaching and facilitating someone as well as helping them go forward. In terms of franchising, one thing I'm involved in, clients regularly say, if you hadn't have told us about that, we'd have wasted a lot of money, or maybe shot ourselves in the foot and so on. So sometimes the things you help people avoid that they value more than what you actually, in terms of the things they actually did, because saving somebody from losing lots of money or ruining the business can be incredibly valuable.
And is there such a thing as a poor coach or mentor?
Oh, I'm sure there is. Yeah, I mean, I've been on the receiving end of some of those as well. I think the poor mentor is somebody who just tells you what to do rather than helping you with it, and that's probably true of a poor coach as well. I think all these things are a lot harder than they sound. I look back on people who were excellent mentors to me. I think their attitude was as important as much as what they knew, their attitude towards me.
Okay. Tony, have you ever used a coach or mentor?
Yes, I have. We had to, when we go back to our website, when we had to upgrade it and everything like that, I actually came to a guy called Nick Hazel, who works for Radio Verulam.
Oh, we know Nick.
Yeah, to help us with sort of like our Facebook, set up our Facebook and set up a newsletter. And also now we're actually discussing e-commerce to increase our sales. It's something, as an old school shopkeeper, it's very hard for someone to come in and tell you how to change your business, because you think you know it all, but you think my business is fine, but you have to move with the times, and you really need some outside help. And yes, I mean, Nick has been a great help, and he's really sort of like increased our presence online. And also simple things like when we expanded the business, there was a time when I thought, well, this is going to be simple, we'll put the fridge there, we'll put the shelves there, and then all of a sudden you realise that this is more difficult than it seems, and we're going to need some outside help. And we actually went to a great designer called Constance, and she was a customer of the shop as well, and she put so much heart, so much passion into our shop, and she actually, I believe she made the shop what it is today.
Right.
You know, she actually, and if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have that beautiful frontage and the layout we've got inside. And you, as a shopkeeper, you have the passion, but you do need someone to actually sort of channel it the right way. And I think it's very, very important. I mean, we go to accountants to sort out tax things, and you know, so we should be open-minded and go to mentors more to help you develop your business. It's something that I've only realised in the past year. It's in my business. It's quite difficult because there's not many delis and not many people run delis. So it's all about how you get on with the customers and everything. It's very hard for someone to come in and say you should be selling this and like that, but you should at least listen. You should at least listen. You don't have to take the advice, but you should at least listen and maybe give them a chance. I'm a great believer in that.
Well, this idea of someone, as you put it, coming in and giving you advice and telling you, as you said, what to sell. I mean, one of the things I've heard business owners who are reticent to use coaches and mentors throw at me is exactly that. Why would I want someone to come in and tell me how to run my business? But are they coming in to tell you how to run your business? Or are they challenging you? What would you...
in a way, they do challenge you, and that's what I like. You know, you have to sort of take the plunge and go, yes, okay, let's build this website. You know, let's build this website. Let's go into e-commerce. You know, and you know, and the challenge is there, and you have to take it. You know, otherwise you are going to stand still and you're just going to fade out. And you know, it's very simple. You know, you look at HMV, look at Blockbuster, they just haven't moved with the times. And you don't, you know, even though we're nowhere near the size of those kind of companies, you've got to pick up on those things and say, yes, let's listen to other people and let's see how we can progress our business.
Carl?
I think it's natural that people are slightly resentful of people telling them what to do, but I think the way you get past that is by introducing things that people would never have thought of. And if I'm in a situation with a client where I'm helping them, I think you have to start with the situation they're currently in. And if they've got a problem right now, and you can bring something to deal with that. That they can see the value within, then you've established some credibility, and then from there you can start in a more general way or a more specific way helping them. You know, running a business requires a whole range of skills, and I don't think anybody would say that they're brilliant at everything. Well, a few people might, but often, you know, what's letting down a business is one area where the owner is maybe just outgrown their own abilities to deal with it because the business has grown, or there's something that they've never been very strong on, never thought about. And that weak link in the chain is often the thing that makes the biggest difference. And I think a mentor coming in can challenge something that's been neglected or that is going wrong, and that one thing can make a disproportionate benefit. But you've got to start where the person is. But telling people what to do, I don't think anybody likes being told what to do. I certainly would say.
Can I just say so? I think also what it is that, you know, if a person is good at running his business, or right, he should allow other people in to concentrate on the other things that he's not good at. Yeah, you know, I'm not very good with computer and online things, right? So Nick comes in and helps us out. Well, I can have that time to concentrate on my customers, which I'm really good at, and that keeps the business going. You're not stuck in an office trying to work something out.
So if I'm a small business owner looking to bring someone in, how do I decide what sort of coach or mentor to go for? Where might I even start looking?
Well, I think a lot of the conventional places you might look at actually don't necessarily deliver what you want. You know, government-funded schemes, for instance, and the last person who ever asked any business advice is your bank manager, in my view. We know how well the banks have been run the last few years.
God bless them all.
But no, I think it's you ask people who've already used some services for something like you want, and get some recommendations and. You know, a few people saying this person's absolutely brilliant, they're probably right.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
I mean, I'm just going to butt in again as
You're not butting in. You're not butting in.
Keep me out. I mean, I'm absolutely in agreement with everything that you've said. Something that we've covered on the show quite a few times before is networking, and that's a great place to actually find from other businesses, who's good at this sort of thing, or
Absolutely.
who's particularly good at the area of business that you need help with. Tony, you mentioned social media and websites. There's lots and lots of expertise out there, and actually going to networking, asking around in the networks, actually finding people within that network and talking to them. Most coaches, most mentors, most advisors are really happy to give you some free time. So actually spend a bit of time with somebody before you part with any money. Make sure that they're the right person, and as you've both said, actually ask for recommendations, ask for testimonials, and those networking places are really, really good sources of.
I totally agree
help.
with. Totally agree with you.
Sorry, go on, Carl. I think it's also a case just talking to other business owners. I mean, my brother, who runs Cashew. He says he gets so much business out of Facebook, and you just ask him and say, really? And that's where I got the idea of Facebook. And then Nick, you sort of get Nick comes along, and then Nick will say something else, and you go back to your web designer, and it just grows from there. You don't need to go to one specific person. It will happen as long as you start looking and asking around. It does all come together.
So I've just got one final question then. How do you know know to say yes? How do you know that the advice that you're getting is the right advice, and you sort of say, okay, we're going to spend that money?
For me, I always compare it to newspaper advertising. If you can spend £500 on 1 week advert in a paper, while a website, good or nearly good, you could spend that kind of money, less than that, and you will have an advertising tool for practically 1, 2, 3 years, before you change it again.
So from Tony, it's about think of return on investment.
Definitely.
Carl?
I think it's take it one step at a time. I think, following on what you were just saying, if somebody at a networking group can maybe do a small piece of work for you to help you with something, and you can see how that goes, and if it's gone brilliantly well, you'll want to do more. And if it isn't quite so good, when you can stop there and not really upset anybody too much. And it's sort of one step at a time. I think the real problem is when you've got to do a big project and you've got to leap in, which is the worst case of all. But in most situations, you get that recommendation, you have a conversation, you do a small piece of work, and off you go.
Brilliant.
Excellent. Well, it sounds as though more importantly, as a successful business, it's as important as ever to get some external input, because it helps you move to the next level, is essentially, as I understand it, what you're both saying.
Definitely.
So actually coaching and mentoring, fantastic stuff, has to be very specific and relevant, and look for some advice and guidance from others that you trust in terms of recommendations.
Definitely. Keep
Brilliant.
asking.
Exactly. Well, thank you both so much for your involvement tonight.
Thank you.
Can you
Thank
believe
you.
time's up already?
I know.
And we hope to see you both again on the show. Thank
Look forward
you.
to it. Thank you.
Thank you
If
very
you
much.
want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Hi, I'm Kathy Weston.
And I'm Lydia Elcoury.
Join us every Thursday evening on The Parent Show for expert interviews, local information about caring for children in West Hearts,
And a What's On guide you just can't afford to miss. We're here every Thursday between 8 and 9 p.m. on Radio Verulam 92.6 FM.
Don't forget to tune in
Jersey Farm, Redbourne and Coney Heath.
Your place, your voice, your music.
92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
Well, as usual, tonight we found lots of interesting stuff from our fantastic guests. What I got out of it was very definitely move with the times, go where your customers are going and find out what they're doing and follow it. Generosity marketing is very, very important, and that's something that I would always go with. If you've got something that you can offer for free and there's no cost attached to you, it's a very, very good hook. And the other thing is, when it's a really good investment to actually get some outside help, but just make sure that you understand the return on the investment. Those are my big takes from tonight. What about you, Roma?
Well, the whole ebook thing is fascinating, and not just the fact that ebook, as Carl said, there are other ways, short versions, pamphlets, all sorts. Whoops, lots of opportunity as I hit the microphone. And I'm just loving this idea of a community. The way, as Tony said, Buongiorno Italia isn't just a deli. There's a whole community attached to it. And I do love that whole concept. And I think we're seeing more and more. Every time we bring in local businesses, we're seeing more and more of this theme, aren't we?
Well, Raindrops on Roses, the lady in the show last couple of weeks ago, she was talking about, an environment that's being created, and that community. And actually, when you create those communities, that's when you get longevity of custom as well, particularly in a retail environment. People almost feel guilty about going somewhere else to buy their salami or to buy their Italian pasta, and the very idea that, Tony might bump into you in the street and you're carrying a bag that's got somebody else. I mean, you'd just die, wouldn't you? I mean, it would just be ghastly, because you're part of his gang, but you're part of his community. You're laughing at his jokes and possibly telling a few of your own.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's really important. Well, I guess we're at that part of the show where we've got to move on and we've got to figure out what events are going on in Hertfordshire for small businesses. So what have you got on the agenda?
Well, first of all, Herts Chamber of Commerce have got the National Centre for Project Management launching a series of, lectures. The first one, are your projects enhancing your business growth? Now, interestingly, of course, we've been talking about the whole idea of bringing externals in. This one is on the 20th of March from 5:30 till 8 in the evening at the Forum in Hertfordshire, which is part of the University of Hertfordshire at Hatfield. It's an information seminar. The National Centre for Project Management is one of the UK's leading providers of multidisciplinary project management education. They aim to set the national agenda and establish project management as a major profession and discipline in the UK. To celebrate, the National Centre for Project Management arrival at the university are holding a series of NCPM, shortened version, launch events. Now, these events are free. I like that word, free. And give you the opportunity to meet them, hear some short talks which will support your business growth, and meet like-minded local business professionals. A few months into 2013, are your projects enhancing your business growth? They've got guest speaker Tom Brancati from Mace Group. So if you want to confirm a place, you email ncpmformother@hearts.ac.uk. As I say, it's free of charge. The latest date you can book is the 18th of March, which I think is day after tomorrow. And you need to contact, alternatively, Jodie Reid on 01707 398 400 or email her at jodiereid, REID, @heartschamber.com.
Brilliant. There's also a West Herts networking brunch going on 9:30 to 11:30 on the 21st of March, which is the day after the Forum event. That's all about social networking. The description is paperless. The tablet can dramatically reduce paper pain. Not sure I believe that, but interestingly enough, it's £15 per person for members, £25 for non-members. Latest booking for that is the 19th. Once again, contact Jodie Reid.
And last but not least, sorry,
go on.
Jumping in as we count down the seconds to the end of the show. Herts Institute of Directors, IOD, have got their Heart Talk breakfast at the Ramada in Hatfield on the 19th of April at 7:15. So that's the end of our show. Thank you very much, everyone. Vicky?
Yes, thanks a lot for listening. Don't forget to tweet us at RV The Business, email us, or call
839 926, or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.